So this video is a few last minute tips for your French writing exam, the last one in your 4 different exams that you have for GCSE French and for any GCSE language subjects. This exam, I would say, is probably the most chill out of the 4 exams in my opinion, as in timing isn't the worst in this one, it's pretty good, and it's not anywhere near as stressful as speaking or listening where they're just rambling on and you're frantically trying to write down everything, you know. So this one's not too bad in terms of that aspect, but that also means that you really want to put everything into this one so you can get as good of a mark as possible, so you can salvage some of those other papers that might have not gone as well as you thought they would have. And the best way you can do well for these questions is to plan everything very thoroughly and to make sure that you don't miss anything out in your question. So what I mean by that is trying to include as much of a variety as possible. This is especially important if you're aiming for the top marks. You want to make sure you have a bit of everything. So before you start writing, I want you to make a plan where you have like a checkbox of everything you want to include into your essay. So for example, you can write down every tense that you're going to use and just have them as a checkbox. You can also write down other things such as like a negative or some specific words or phrases that you might want to use. I'm going to link a few things down below that will be quite useful in terms of different phrases that you can use in your writing exam that will make it sound a lot better and also really push you into the top brackets of marks. And if you are ever struggling in how you could make your sentences better, what you can do is think about how you would say it in English and then try your best to translate it into French. Obviously, don't take too many risks in your writing exam because you have the choice of which words you want to use. So if you're unfamiliar with one word or something and you're not sure how to spell it, just don't use it. It's better to use a word that you are more comfortable with. Obviously, don't be on the safe side as well and don't just stick to the same couple of words. So it's really about the balance again there. And the best way you can get that balance is to plan everything out before you start writing. So that's probably my biggest advice, to really plan everything. But I don't want you to neglect your vocabulary either, because there is a translation section at the very end. And so if there is still a bit of vocabulary that you're not familiar with, do vocabulary revision as well, just so you can make sure that you are able to translate that passage. Also, one more thing, don't write too much because you're probably going to have a lot of time left over, right? You don't want to use that time to just continue writing more and more things that don't need to be there, because that could potentially drop marks for you. You could make a mistake somewhere and then cause yourself to lose marks, or it could just go into such a irrelevant zone that it starts being completely out of what the question's asking you. You need to make sure that you are still answering the question and you're not going into some tangent that doesn't matter, right? So once you think you've written enough, don't force more into it. As long as you've ticked all the boxes that you've written for yourself at the start, that's it. You can then stop writing after that. You don't want to overdo it, because overdoing it can potentially make your essay worse. My main advice is just the planning and making sure that you have everything very well thought out, and also to have a bit of balance between taking those risks of different vocab words and things and also staying too safe. You want to make sure that you are at a good even way between the two, maybe a bit more to the ambitious side, but you don't want to be taking risks that you know that you aren't going to do correctly, right? You don't want to be using words that you know you've misspelled, or you're using tenses that you just don't know how to write. Make sure that whatever you're writing you're confident in and you know that you're going to get the marks for it. Go revise now, do your vocabulary, do whatever you need to do. I don't want you to be on YouTube anymore though. That's the only one thing I want you to promise me.